Why do websites need to be different on my phone?
Does web design make you rich?
You tell me.
Oh boy.
Hello, Internet. I'm Elia Milan, COO at 4 Kitchens.
I'm Todd Nienkerk, CEO.
And this is the top 10 questions about web design and development. Shall we dive right in?
Let's do it.
The Internet wants to know, is web development the same as software development?
No, it is no. No, it is not. But web development is a type of software development. It is software development. So web development involves software. Ergo, web development is a type of software development.
Let's say that you have a website.
Mm-hmm.
Is it hard to maintain a website?
Great question. I'd say it first depends on how well built the site was to begin with. So if a lot of thought went into the long-term lifespan of that website, if it was well designed and well built to begin with, if it was built with maintenance in mind and a long lifespan in mind, then it should be well maintained. If good choices were made in terms of platform and architecture, it should be relatively easy to maintain. But if things were put together quickly, if decisions were made during the development cycle to launch quickly, then chances are you've built up a lot of technical debt, which is a risk. And now you're dealing with things that have to be handled during the maintenance cycle, and you're still doing development during maintenance. And you're on top of that having to deal with patches and updates and all kinds of other things. So it becomes very difficult to maintain your website at that point. And another thing I'll add is if you're working with things like software platforms, like an open source platform or even a proprietary platform, the more custom work that you do on the back end, the more maintenance you'll have to do on that website because it's more custom work. Should web designers know how to code?
I don't know if they should know how to code, but I have certainly seen when web designers have even a nascent understanding of coding that they are able to think about web design in perhaps a more empathetic way, a way that is more collaborative with the people who are going to be doing the coding, the software developers. But I think that it can definitely be like a leg up, perhaps a stronger candidate for an open job.
I think web designer is one of those weird terms that is a little fuzzy. And
what is design?
Yeah, what is a web designer in particular? Is it a visual designer? Is it a front-end developer? And it kind of spans a little bit of both, and it depends on, So I think that term is also kind of falling out of favor a little bit, and we're now getting a bit more specific about the two.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think that's starting to change a little bit.
Is web design computer science?
Here is my story. So in 2000, when I started school at UT Austin, I enrolled in computer science. And I spent the first year learning things like Lisp and Scheme and all of these very obscure academic programming languages. And towards the end of that year, I asked one of my professors and somebody else in that department, when are we going to start learning some more modern programming languages, things that I could use for web design and development, like, I don't know, JavaScript or something like that. And I was told that the internet is not programming. And so the very next day, I dropped out of computer science because I realized at that point, one, that whole program was out of date. And they were way more focused on the academic side of computer science, on the science part of computer science, than on the applied part of computer science. And I realized if I wanted to learn web design and development, and I had to learn it on my own anyway, this would be an extracurricular thing anyway, then I should just study the things that I thought were interesting. So that's why I got into radio, television, film, and psychology, and wound up just studying things that I thought were interesting rather than the things that I thought I would have to teach myself as a vocation.
Do you think that it's still the same way for computer science majors now?
It is not. No, they've changed the program.
Have we come along now?
They've figured it out. They've realized that in order to attract students, they have to start teaching more applied languages. So I believe that the entry-level computer science programs now teach JavaScript and much more reasonable and accessible languages. And it's cheaper, honestly, to teach those things because anybody can open up a text editor and a internet browser and see your work in action right away rather than having to download all these obscure software programs to run Lisp and Scheme and things like that. Does web design make you rich?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Sorry. It's a good job.
I mean, I guess for some people, like as much as like winning the lottery can make you rich, right? Like I think some people have like gotten really lucky with like some specific kind of software that they built, Facebook. But otherwise, I'm not sure that that's the reason that people should get into the field of web design.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a good, stable job.
As long as AI doesn't take over and rule the world.
Well, along those lines, the very next question from the internet is, will web design be replaced by AI?
I think that there are probably some tasks that will be replaced by AI. It would be nice if the kind of like rote rudimentary tasks that we all kind of get sick of doing in our jobs were the things that AI took over, and that left us free to do more creative, difficult problem solving. It'd be great if AI took over enough work that we could just all work less. I'm down for that.
Yep. That's supposed to be the point.
That's supposed to be the point. That's why we're doing this, right? Does web design include digital marketing?
Oh, yes and no. So this is a little bit of a Venn diagram thing. Web design definitely needs to be aware of the needs of digital marketing. Web design absolutely serves the needs of digital marketing in some cases, but not all. So good web designers and good web design practices need to be aware of what modern digital marketers need, and they need to anticipate those needs, and they need to serve those needs. So that would include things like understanding what modern content marketing programs need, what modern marketing tools use and anticipate, stuff like that. So web design is not all inclusive of digital marketing. They exist side by side in our industry and in our practice, and the two should be familiar with each other at the very least. Is web design a good career?
You tell me.
Oh boy.
I mean, I do think it's a good career because I think that people who work in web design, which is a broad term, in my opinion, they have a lot of job opportunities. And I think that people who work in the field have a lot of autonomy as well, depending on what kind of company or agency that they're working in. It certainly is something where you get an opportunity to like build on your skills kind of constantly. So I think if you are somebody who has like a thirst for knowledge and continuous improvement and continuous learning, then I think that it can be a good career. Why do websites need to be different on my phone?
The most obvious reason is the screen is smaller, so it needs to be designed in a different way. Also, the form factor is different. It's vertical. Most people are not using it horizontally. They're using it vertically. Also, you're tapping. You're not using a mouse and cursor to move around and navigate, click on links. Now, that has a real meaning and a real difference. The links, for example, need to be easier to tap on. So there needs to be some accessibility built into that. You need to have a tappable zone around that link that's a little bit bigger than just the text that you would click on with a mouse, for example. That's just one of many dozens of things you want to think about when you are building a website that needs to work well on a phone versus a desktop or laptop computer. A lot of these problems have been solved. So while 16 years ago, this is something that we spent a lot of time trying to figure out. A lot of these challenges were really new. People were having to innovate in lots of new and interesting ways. A lot of these challenges have been solved at this point.
What would you do if you came across a website that wasn't factored for a phone?
Oh, I still do all the time. You do the whole pinch and zoom thing, and you have to noodle around on it, moving back and forth, and it's super annoying. So don't be that. Yes. And then you lose visitors, and then you lose business. And so don't do that. Build a good mobile site. Can web design be self-taught?
8,000,000%. Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I did it.
You did it. If you can do it,
anybody can do it.
I mean, I know the story of many a web chef at Four Kitchens is that they came from a completely different background and found their way to web development, whether that was as a hobby or, just being self-taught for whatever reason. We have a pretty high amount of people who came from like fine arts backgrounds even.
Yeah, quite a few.
And found their way to web design and development. So yeah, absolutely, it can be self-taught. I think that we are now in a place with the industry where it doesn't have to be self-taught, which I think is really cool. Like I'm seeing a lot more vocational programs like you talked about. Like it is a skill that can be learned without a 4-year degree even. And so I'm seeing a lot of vocational options, coding like boot camps type of things as well. So for people who maybe want, to find their second career, I see a lot of people doing like career change stuff through boot camps. So I think that I like that we're in a place where you don't have to learn on your own. Whereas I feel like the generation that you really came up in was a lot of self-taught people.
Yeah.
Like everybody that came from that generation of web design and development, it's like, yeah, I learned from so-and-so. I had this website I wanted to make, or like everybody has their story, but no one kind of like went into the field saying, I want to be a web developer, So I like that there are more options now.
This has been some of the web's top questions about web design and development. I'm Todd.
And I'm Elia.
And we are Four Kitchens signing off.